This video is sponsored by you. LEGO's box art used to just be better. The scenery and atmosphere was just so much stronger. It always made me think of these older fantasy movies from the 80s and 90s, like Excalibur and Robin Hood. The skies on these boxes in particular always stood out to me. The golden orange sunsets of Castle, the pink stormy skies of Pirates, and the blue speckled universe of space. I used to sit and just stare at these old box arts, thinking to myself what kind of stuff was happening over the horizon. Fright Nights in particular always stood out to me for their extremely colorful box art. The pink and purple rocks, the bright orange and yellow sky, usually with some bats, and not to mention the cooler, darker aesthetic of the minifigures and sets themselves. It's clear by this point that a lot of my love goes to the classic themes, but I'd say that LEGO's box art upheld the same mystique into the 2000s and 2010s. I'm sure many of you watching would agree. I've noticed a recent trend though. I want to make it clear that my intention with this video isn't to just bash new LEGO sets, and to be fair, I was a little selective with some of the boxes I showed in the last segment. Some of LEGO's new sets do have good box art, even though they might not appeal to me as much as some of the older ones. I think my point still stands though. Why are sets like Rivendell and the Great Deku Tree bound to these empty black voids on their box arts, when they could have bright, vibrant backgrounds like some of the older sets? LEGO has been appealing more to adult audiences in recent years, which I obviously don't have a problem with, but they seemingly think that bright, fun backgrounds should be reserved for sets aimed at children, and opt for these empty black voids in hopes of appealing to an older crowd with a more minimal aesthetic. If anything, when I look at these sets, I just feel even more hollow. I also can't shake the feeling that this design choice wasn't made aesthetically, but rather because of laziness. This topic might seem pretty trivial on paper. After all, most people only really care about the set inside the box, but that isn't a reason for LEGO to start slacking on its presentation. A lot of what I'm saying here can also be applied to the design of the instruction manuals, which have been looking downright dystopian recently. And don't get me wrong, most of these builds are great, if you can find or afford them, which is a topic I want to circle back to later in this video. And as the prices of these sets increase, it's just crazy to me that LEGO seems completely content with using the paint bucket tool instead of hiring a real artist. They can hire me if they want. I don't hate LEGO, but it does bother me that despite their immense success, they seem okay with cutting corners that ultimately lessen the overall experience. It makes me sad that this art form is seemingly being let go by LEGO and kind of phased out for lazier alternatives. I want LEGO to show the passion and creativity that used to radiate off of store shelves. Now, when I go to my local LEGO aisle, all I see is the black void. LEGO loves money. They're pretty smart too, because they know how to trick our slushy little monkey brains into paying a premium for fairly average stuff. So there was a time when fans of classic themes weren't very well fed. Most of what LEGO was putting out was Star Wars, Marvel, maybe a little bit of Harry Potter, maybe some LEGO City, and then you also had the creator theme, but that varied wildly from set to set. Me personally, I just prefer generic knights, spacemen, and pirates that I can kind of imagine my own world around. Anyway, a few years ago, LEGO released Pirates of Barracuda Bay. A pretty nice set, decent retail price at $160 USD, it was all around pretty good. I mean, look at that beautiful box art. The starry sky, the distant sunset, you've got some little islands in the background. This was around the time I was getting back into LEGO, and while I didn't personally buy the set, I appreciated what it was harkening back to. LEGO has released some more of these throwback sets, and for the most part, they're exceptionally well designed. The designers have definitely done their homework, and I do see the clear love and passion in these builds. My issue, however, lies with some of the pricing and FOMO tactics. It's hard to talk about this stuff without sounding incredibly whiny, so I'll do my best to just keep it brief. LEGO has been drip-feeding us these nostalgic sets, and while you could argue that individually they're worth the price, what I don't agree with is LEGO locking the smaller classic sets behind high-cost thresholds as gifts with purchase. They're only available for a limited time, and if you aren't able to pay the exorbitantly high prices at release, you'll have to buy them secondhand on markets like eBay and Amazon, where they're often upcharged because of limited stock. You can even find these gifts with purchase listed on the LEGO website for reasonable prices that you might expect to pay if they were regular sets. Anyway, I'm not going to sit here and act like this is a bigger deal than it is. I think LEGO knows what they're doing when they dangle the nostalgia carrot in front of our faces, but it's not the end of the world, or the end of LEGO, even if it kind of bums me out a little bit. At the end of the day, I'm just happy to see LEGO acknowledging their classic themes and all, even if it's more convoluted than I'd like. After all, what's old is new again. Okay, so I might have started to ramble a little bit, but let's bring it back to the box art and talk about some stuff that LEGO can do going forward. So while I know that LEGO probably won't go full tilt back into the Bob Ross-esque box art of old, they've proven recently that they can make pretty damn good modern box art that honestly is on the same level as some of the old stuff. These examples tell me that LEGO is aware of the appeal that the more colorful, painterly boxes have, at least to certain audiences. While there are undoubtedly those that prefer the black void that adorns most modern boxes, I think there's a happy medium to be met that could satisfy people like myself, and those that prefer the aforementioned minimalism. Take the UCS Millennium Falcon as a prime example. The box is about 70% black void and 30% beautiful render of Cloud City, exactly where it counts, on the front. It's not as bright as older boxes, but also not as gloomy as newer boxes. All of what I've said here about the Millennium Falcon can also be applied to the UCS Star Destroyer, which also has beautiful box art. I can understand an adult not wanting to come home from work with a big, bright box that says, "Hey, I just spent $500 on little bits of plastic," to their partner. I see the tactility in something more discreet that blends into the shadows of a house. I think for the kind of adult-oriented set in question, typically marked at higher prices, more for the collector, this kind of box art should be the standard. And because the box art takes up less space on the box, it should theoretically be easier to create. At the very least, it allows for an easily reusable template that maintains some artistic creativity across sets. Here are some of my own interpretations of this style for some recent sets that have been doomed with the black void on their own boxes. I'm optimistic and excited to see what LEGO has planned for the future, but I hope this trend of colorless boxes and black voids comes to an end soon. I'd like to tell a brief story to you all before we say our farewells for the day. Several years ago, my friends and I were getting back into LEGO around the same time. Whenever we'd find ourselves sitting around and talking, we'd put on a video showing classic themes through the years. These boxes would light our conversations, and every now and then, a box would even become the topic of our talk. As the videos would continue, and the years would go by, new boxes would replace old ones, and we'd change the video. As I get older and have less money for LEGO, I find myself staring at these older boxes, wondering what was happening over the horizon. LEGO's box art used to be better, I tell myself. Farewell, everyone.